My name is Qurra Ayunin binti Muhammad Zamri, and my group members are Tunku, Farah, Emily, Premanand, Puteri, Sabrina, Nurul, Asyiqin, dan juga Nurul, Shafiqah. So today we will present about second language and the changes in the brain. Okay, so now for the introduction part, I will start with what is language. Language is a tool for us humans to communicate with each other. Communicate is by expressing our thought and feeling to the other people. And what is second language? Second language is the language that we speak other than our native language. As an example, a Malay native language is Bahasa Melayu, and her second language is French or maybe Mandarin. So the part of the brain that involved with language is the broadcast area and the learning areas. The broadcast area responsible for the production of speech, and the Vernix area responsible for the comprehension of speech. Okay, now for us to complete this study, we distribute a survey that consists of 5 parts, which is the demographic, neuro-linguistic abilities, second language learning, reading in the second language, and the last part is skills that the learners able to improve. So all the questions that we ask will lead us to the main goal of this study, that is about the second language and the changes in the brain. The changes can be seen in terms of reading, where the learners can easily understand a sentence in another language, and the language that they learn can be related with their first language. So the question is related to the learner's memory abilities, communication skills, and also their creativity skills. So the result will be discussed in the next video. Thank you.
Moving on to the next section, which is second language learning. So a study conducted by Stephen Christian proposed that an individual can have command for 2 or more languages by acquiring or learning them. So we've conducted a survey towards our respondents where we asked whether it is hard for them to learn a second language. So 34% of them agree to this statement, whereas 60% of them responded neutral to this statement. So the process of acquiring language occurs subconsciously, and a person is normally not aware that they are acquiring a language. However, learning language happens when a person is conscious and pays attention. Learning becomes easy as the neural connections are easily activated if there's a lot of stimulation and exposure. And when a learner finds it difficult to learn a language, this indicates that the neural connection is forming, and it takes time for them for the neural connection to form. So learning and acquiring language here is different, where learning is where we don't know anything about the language and we get it from somewhere, which is through formal education usually, whereas acquiring language is more towards learning a language in our environment, such as the environment where we grow up. Also, next we ask our respondents whether they think it is easier to learn language with a visual aid. So most of our respondents responded it is very useful for them to learn by using videos and movies when trying to learn a language. Wright 1976 stated that a variety of media and presentation of visuals are very useful to a language learner. So visual aids is very helpful to the non-native speakers to understand more on what they're trying to interpret. So the increasing lot of memory task is activated in the middle frontal gyrus, insula, superior temporal gyrus, and inferior parietal cortex. So, and the left of the insula of balanced bilinguals have higher level of activation in second language processing in comparison to those of the unbalanced bilinguals. Next is speaking practice or rehearsal. So when asked whether the respondents often practice speaking the second language, 14% of them strongly agree, whereas 40% agree to this statement. So vocal rehearsal can improve learners' ability to rely on long-term phonological, awareness during encoding and retrieval. Learning of phonologically familiar words is very much likely facilitated by vocal rehearsal. Study by Ellis and Sinclair conducted towards the non-Welsh speaker to identify the effects of vocal and subvocal rehearsal when learning Welsh words. It is found that it is more beneficial for the non-Welsh speaker to do vocal rehearsal compared to subvocal rehearsal. Subvocal rehearsals here, it refers to silent speeches where we speak silently to ourselves, especially when reading books or doing our internal monologue towards ourselves.
Based on our survey, we have found that 80% of the respondents are learning different orthography for their second language compared to their first language. Orthography is also known as a writing system. For example, Malay or English, we use alphabets A, B, C, D, E, F, G. For Mandarin, we use Chinese characters or Hanzi. And Japanese are either kanji or kana. So there is a study by Nakada and others. They studied on Japanese native speakers who are learning English and vice versa. By the way, both of these languages, which are Japanese and English, they have different writing systems. But interestingly, they found that the same part of the brain that is activated for their first language is also activated when they are reading second language as well. There is a different study by Yokohama and others too, who are studying Korean and also Chinese native speakers who are learning Japanese. So when the Chinese native speakers read Japanese, there are more activation occurred in the mid-frontal gyrus, compared to when the Korean native speakers read Japanese. This is because the Korean writing system, the Korean Hangul, and also the Japanese kanji or kana, the characteristics of the writing systems are interchangeable compared to Chinese characters. So that's why the brain takes more cognitive process when the Chinese native speakers are reading in Japanese. We also found that more students do not find it easy to read in their second language since they are learning different orthography than the second language. So according to Bashwitz and others, when Japanese native speakers read English, there are 3 parts that are activated in the brain, which are the inferior frontal gyrus, medial frontal gyrus, and angular gyrus. So this shows that the brain, it involves more cognitive processes when they are reading the second language in order to understand and to comprehend it. And for writing, Chinese characters, it is required to have good handwriting skills because there are a lot of strokes involved to write the Chinese characters. Most of the respondents also read second language sentences by comparing their first language to understand the meanings or remember the meanings. This is a proof that the first language do influence the second language as well. So in the brain of bilingual who learn English and also Chinese, the Society for Neuroscience found a wave called N400 have changed when they read English words that have similar spellings or sounds in Chinese. So this is because the brain takes time to differentiate between the words and the meanings in the other languages. And also a previous study by Kern, they observed that the subject use their meta translation ability of first language to actually understand the meanings of the second language. That means when we want to know something about the second language, we mentally translate it in the first language. And also bilinguals and multilinguals, they also change languages in their heads, intentionally and also unintentionally, to understand the grammar, the vocab, and also to comprehend the second language.
Okay, for the next session, I will be explaining about improving skill. The first question is related to memory and thinking ability. 49 out of 50 respondents agree that by learning second language, they have improved their thinking and memory ability. This is because it helped to develop their reasoning skill. This skill help a person to direct, control, and manage their attention. A person who speaks two languages can focus better on what is important and ignore irrelevant information more effectively than a person who speaks one language. The reason for this is the language center of the brain are flexible, so it helps to develop new area in the mind by learning second language. This lead to improve their capacity to focus. The second question is related to communication skill. 48 out of 50 respondents agree that by learning second language, they have improved their communication skill. As a person learns a new language, the prefrontal cortex at the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere will activate. The prefrontal cortex is used for advanced processing, and the bilateral supramarginal area is responsible for link word for the meaning. According to a study in Switzerland, the brain of a bilingual person experiences change in the structure of the area that can lead for a better communication. The MRI scan shows that the brain of a person who learns second language are bigger than a person who only know one language. The area that helps to connect multiple layers of language-related information, such as auditory, visual and sensory information, is the ocular gyrus. Okay, next, a research by Shafiqah 2018 says that by learning second language, the grey matter and white matter volume is increased. Grey matter is the neuron that have cell body and small branches connection, known as dendrite. Increase in grey matter density resulting in more cell. This lead to an individual to have a healthier brain. Increase in the white matter volume can help a message to travel faster and effectively through the nerve neuron to the brain. This can lead to a better communication skill in a bilingual person. Okay, the third question is about creativity skill. 44 out of 50 respondents agree to this statement. A person's creativity skill can be improved because when learning second language, individual creativity and cognitive flexibility can be improved. This could be related to the cognitive strategy involved in learning new language, which included willingness and adaptability needed for language switching and analysis involved in second language learning.
So now let us look into our further questions that were pointed out in our survey. So firstly, we will look into the neuro-linguistic ability, which underneath questions like fMRI to measure neurocognitive activity in the brain. So our first question is, did you know the function magnetic resonance imaging, also known as fMRI, used to measure multiple neurocognitive abilities in the brain while learning another language? So 34% of respondents have never heard about fMRI before and its functions briefly. Since language is an activity that requires multiple cognitive skills, right? So many cognitive domains may be studied through fMRI studies. But all of these domains were implicated in aging-related cognitive impairment. So language skill stimulation will indirectly enhance our various kind of abilities and also potentially reverse adverse brain aging by improving our cognitive abilities. Next, the questions that poses to our respondents is about at which age do you think it is suitable for an individual to start learning a second language in their lifetime. So in this question, we will look into the age disparity in learning second language and its relativity to cognitive. So most of the 88% of respondents agreed on early childhood it is a suitable age for an individual to learn a second language, right? So why? Because the more we get older, the more difficult it is for a person to learn a second language. Children become proficient at studying a second language until the age of 18, about 10 years older than previous projection. This has been proven in one of the neurocognitive linguistic survey, which have to be a biggest survey in history, right? So what are the brain area that responsible for our language? The Broca's area situated in the left frontal lobe is responsible for the speech processing and articulation, while the Wernicke's area that located in the left temporal lobe is the one which concerned with language formation and comprehension. That being said, let's move on to our third question, which is, do you agree the ability to learn a second language is a uniquely human ability or also traits that may be innate? So this explains learning a second language is an innate or learned ability for an individual. The respondent have marked up to 62% agreed that learning a second language is innate and a unique ability for any individual with their traits, right? So Noam Chomsky also have told us with this hypothesis suggests that infants have an inherent biological capacity to understand language. However, genetic and neurological tests have not confirmed this theory.
Briefly to conclude, the main purpose of our research is to find out whether there are any changes in the brain when someone learns a second language. Based on the analysis conveyed, it can be concluded that learning a second language thus stimulates changes in the brain. It increases white matter volume in the brain and activates the prefrontal cortex, which helps in improving communication skills. It can also improve thinking and working memory as it develops new areas of the mind and enhance its innate capacity to focus. Plus, it also boosts the development of creativity skills. Hence, it can be said that second language learning has a significant effect on cognitive abilities. Future exploration into the relationship of second language learning and the brain could be useful to attract many people to learn new languages, because learning a second language is definitely a more rewarding use of time. Thank you.